the most powerful person in any room is rarely the loudest. It's the one who understands people better than they understand themselves, because real power isn't about domination. It's about strategy. And if you learn just 6 simple rules, you can outsmart almost anyone without raising your voice. And if you want to understand psychological power, manipulation defense, and mental strength on a deeper level, make sure you subscribe and stay with me, because the next rule might completely change how you deal with difficult people. Most people lose power in a conversation the moment their emotions take over. The truth is, emotional reactions are predictable, and predictability is the easiest thing in the world to manipulate. When someone knows exactly what will make you angry, defensive, or anxious, they gain a hidden advantage over you. They don't need to overpower you. They only need to press the right emotional button and wait for the reaction. The moment you react without thinking, you are no longer controlling the situation. You are simply responding to it, and the other person is quietly steering the direction of the interaction. The people who truly outsmart others understand a simple psychological principle. The first person who loses emotional control loses strategic control. That is why powerful communicators train themselves to slow down their reactions. When someone challenges them, criticizes them, or tries to provoke them, they don't rush to defend themselves. Instead, they pause. That pause may only last a few seconds, but in those seconds, something important happens. Instead of letting emotion decide the response, awareness steps in. They observe the tone of the other person, the intention behind the words, and the possible outcomes of different responses. This calm awareness completely disrupts manipulation. A person trying to provoke you is expecting a certain reaction. They expect raised voices, defensive explanations, or emotional frustration. When those reactions don't appear, the manipulator suddenly loses their script. The interaction becomes unpredictable for them, and unpredictability makes people uncomfortable. Now they are the ones who feel uncertain, while you remain composed. Controlling your emotions does not mean suppressing them or pretending they do not exist. It means refusing to let them make decisions for you. Emotions are signals, not commands. They tell you something is happening, but they do not have to dictate your behavior. When you learn to separate what you feel from how you respond, you gain a powerful mental distance that most people never develop. That distance allows you to think clearly, while others are reacting blindly. It allows you to choose words carefully while others are speaking impulsively. And over time, people begin to notice something different about you. They realize that their attempts to provoke, pressure, or manipulate you simply don't work the way they expected. The people who truly outsmart others are rarely the ones who talk the most. In fact, the opposite is usually true. The quieter person in the conversation often has the greatest advantage, because while everyone else is busy speaking, revealing opinions, and exposing emotions, they are collecting information. Information is the real currency of power in any interaction. The more someone talks, the more they unintentionally reveal about their intentions, insecurities, motivations, and weaknesses. Many people feel uncomfortable with silence, so they rush to fill it with words. They explain too much, defend themselves too quickly, and share more than the situation actually requires. In doing so, they unknowingly give the other person a map of their thinking. Once someone understands how you think, what bothers you, and what you want, they can begin to influence your decisions more easily. This is why strategic thinkers train themselves to speak less and observe more. Observation reveals patterns that words often hide. When you listen carefully, you begin to notice small signals in people's behavior. You notice the hesitation before someone answers a question. You notice when someone avoids a topic or quickly changes the subject. You notice the difference between confidence and forced confidence. These details tell you far more than long explanations ever could. A person might try to control a conversation with strong words, but their tone, body language, and timing often reveal what they are really thinking. When you are the one speaking less, you also create space for the other person to continue talking. Most individuals enjoy feeling heard, and when they feel that space, they tend to open up more than they plan to. They reveal details about their plans, frustrations, and perspectives without realizing the strategic value of that information. Meanwhile, you are building a clearer understanding of the entire situation. Another quiet advantage of speaking less is that your words begin to carry more weight. When someone talks constantly, their statements start to lose impact. But when you are selective with your words, people pay closer attention when you finally speak. Your responses appear more thoughtful and deliberate, and this naturally increases your influence in the conversation. By slowing down your speech and sharpening your observation, you place yourself in a position where you are not reacting blindly. Instead, you are reading the situation carefully while others unknowingly reveal the very information that helps you stay one step ahead. One of the most effective ways to outsmart people is surprisingly simple: let them reveal themselves. Most individuals think manipulation requires clever arguments or aggressive persuasion, but in reality, people often expose their true intentions on their own. The key is patience. When someone feels rushed, challenged, or cornered, they become defensive and careful with their words. But when they feel comfortable, when they believe they are in control of the conversation, they begin to relax. And that is when the truth starts slipping through. Many people make the mistake of confronting others too quickly. They accuse, interrupt, and challenge every suspicious statement. The problem with this approach is that it forces the other person to immediately build a defense. Once someone goes into defense mode, they become cautious and guarded. Their real intentions stay hidden behind carefully chosen words. But when you resist the urge to confront right away, something different happens. You allow the conversation to continue naturally, and the other person keeps talking, often revealing far more than they intended. Strategic communicators understand the power of well-placed questions. Instead of arguing, they ask simple, calm questions that encourage the other person to explain themselves further. A person who believes they are convincing you will usually keep expanding their explanation. The longer they speak, the more details they introduce, and the harder it becomes for them to maintain a consistent story if their intentions are dishonest. Small contradictions begin to appear. Shifts in tone become noticeable. What started as a confident statement slowly becomes uncertain. Another powerful tool in this process is silence. When someone finishes speaking and expects an immediate response, silence can feel surprisingly uncomfortable. Many people rush to fill that silence, adding extra details, clarifying points, or over-explaining their position. In that moment, they often reveal the exact information they were originally trying to hide. What looked like confidence turns into nervous elaboration. Allowing people to reveal themselves also protects you from unnecessary conflict. Instead of making accusations that could be denied, you quietly gather clear evidence through their own words and behavior. Over time, patterns emerge, motives become visible. The person's true character becomes difficult to hide because it is displayed repeatedly through their own actions. When you master this approach, you no longer need to force the truth out of people. You simply create the space where their own words slowly uncover it for you. One of the clearest signs of real power is the ability to set boundaries that cannot be easily manipulated. Many people believe intelligence or persuasion alone protects them from being controlled by others, but without firm boundaries, even the smartest person can be pushed into situations they never intended to accept. Manipulative individuals are experts at testing limits. They rarely start with obvious pressure. Instead, they begin with small requests, subtle guilt, or quiet emotional pressure, slowly observing how far they can move your limits before you resist. When someone does not have clear boundaries, they often rely on explanations to defend themselves. They try to justify every decision, hoping the other person will understand. But explanations can easily become openings for negotiation. The moment you explain too much, a manipulative person begins searching for weaknesses in that explanation. They challenge it, question it, or try to make you feel guilty for maintaining your position. Slowly, the conversation turns into a debate where your boundary becomes something that must be defended instead of something that simply exists. People who maintain strong influence understand that boundaries work best when they are calm, simple, and consistent. Instead of long explanations, they use clear statements that leave little room for manipulation. They do not argue endlessly about their limits, and they do not allow emotional pressure to pull them into defending what they have already decided. This calm firmness sends a quiet signal that their position is not open for constant negotiation. Consistency is the real strength behind any boundary. If someone enforces a limit one day but abandons it the next when pressure increases, others quickly learn that persistence will eventually break that boundary. Manipulators are very patient with this strategy. They apply pressure slowly, repeating requests, adding emotional arguments, or testing different angles until they find the moment when the boundary weakens. Once they discover that moment, they know they can control the situation again. When your boundaries remain steady regardless of pressure, something important happens. The other person realizes that pushing further will not change the outcome. Over time, they stop wasting energy trying to manipulate the situation because they understand that your limits are real. This creates a reputation around you. People begin to recognize that your decisions are not easily influenced by guilt, intimidation, or persuasion, and that recognition alone shifts the balance of power in many interactions. Silence is one of the most underestimated tools of psychological power. Most people believe strength in conversation comes from having the perfect argument or the smartest response. But often the most strategic move is not speaking at all. Silence creates space, and that space has a powerful psychological effect on the person in front of you. Human beings are naturally uncomfortable with silence during tense or important conversations. When a moment of quiet appears, many people feel an almost immediate urge to fill it with words. Manipulators and aggressive personalities rely heavily on momentum. They push conversations quickly, using pressure, emotion, and constant talking to control the direction of the interaction. When someone is speaking continuously, it becomes difficult for the other person to slow down and think clearly. The conversation turns into a stream of reactions instead of thoughtful responses. Silence interrupts that momentum. It forces the conversation to slow down, and when things slow down, manipulation becomes harder to maintain. When you respond with silence after someone makes a strong statement, accusation, or demand, something interesting happens. The other person often begins to question their own words. They start wondering what you are thinking. Are you disagreeing? Are you analyzing their statement? Are you seeing something they missed? That uncertainty begins to shift the psychological balance of the conversation. Instead of you reacting to them, they begin reacting to the silence you created. Silence also encourages people to reveal more information than they originally planned to share. When someone expects a quick response but receives none, they often continue speaking in order to justify their position or clarify what they meant. In doing so, they may unintentionally expose their real intentions, emotions, or weaknesses. What started as a confident statement sometimes turns into nervous over-explaining simply because the silence created pressure. Another hidden strength of silence is emotional control. When a conversation becomes heated, silence gives you time to process what is happening instead of reacting impulsively. Instead of saying something you might regret or escalating the conflict, you create a pause that allows your thinking to catch up with your emotions. This pause can prevent small disagreements from turning into larger conflicts. People who master silence are rarely perceived as weak. In many situations, they appear more confident and composed than those who rush to respond. Their quiet presence signals that they are not easily pressured, not easily provoked, and not easily pulled into emotional reactions. Over time, others begin to recognize that silence from you is not hesitation, but deliberate control of the moment. One of the smartest ways to maintain power in any situation is to avoid revealing your full strategy. Many people lose their advantage because they feel the need to explain everything they are thinking. They outline their plans, share their intentions too early, and describe exactly how they will respond to a situation. While honesty and openness can be valuable in the right environments, constantly exposing your full thinking makes it easier for others to predict you. And once someone can predict your moves, they can begin preparing ways to counter them. People who play psychological games often study reactions very carefully. They watch what you say, how quickly you say it, and what you reveal about your plans. If they understand your strategy too soon, they can quietly adjust their behavior to block it. This is why the most strategic communicators share information slowly and selectively. They speak clearly, but they avoid exposing every detail of their thinking. By doing this, they keep a layer of unpredictability in the interaction. Unpredictability creates a form of psychological pressure. When someone cannot easily guess your next step, they become more cautious. They begin questioning their own approach because they are unsure how you might respond. This uncertainty makes manipulation much harder to maintain. A manipulator prefers a target whose reactions are easy to anticipate. When your decisions appear calm but slightly unpredictable, that comfort disappears for them. Holding back parts of your strategy also allows you to observe how situations develop before committing fully to a position. Instead of locking yourself into a rigid plan, you keep the flexibility to adjust based on new information. While others rush to declare their intentions, you remain attentive to shifts in behavior, tone, and timing. This awareness gives you the chance to respond in ways that are better suited to the real situation rather than reacting to assumptions. Another advantage of protecting your strategy is that it prevents others from interfering prematurely. When people know exactly what you are planning, some may attempt to influence the outcome for their own benefit. By revealing only what is necessary at the right moment, you reduce the chances of unnecessary resistance or sabotage. Your actions speak clearly, but they arrive when the timing is strongest. Over time, this approach builds a reputation around you. People notice that you rarely act impulsively and that your decisions often appear carefully timed. They realize that you think several steps ahead, and that realization alone makes many individuals far more cautious when dealing with you. One of the most powerful psychological advantages you can develop is the ability to remain calm when others lose control. In tense situations, emotions spread quickly from one person to another. When someone raises their voice, shows anger, or becomes aggressive, the natural human response is to mirror that intensity. The conversation escalates, both sides become defensive, and clarity disappears. In that moment, the situation is no longer about logic or strategy. It becomes a battle of emotion, and emotional battles rarely produce wise outcomes. People who understand power recognize that emotional chaos weakens decision-making. When someone is angry or frustrated, their thinking becomes narrow. They focus only on winning the moment rather than understanding the bigger picture. Words are spoken impulsively, assumptions are made quickly, and reactions replace careful thought. This is why individuals who remain calm during emotional situations gain a significant advantage. While others are reacting, they are still thinking. Calmness creates contrast. When one person is visibly upset and the other remains composed, the difference becomes very noticeable. Observers naturally trust the person who appears more controlled and rational. Even the angry individual may begin to feel the imbalance. Their emotional intensity starts to feel less effective when it fails to provoke the same reaction from you. Instead of pulling you into the chaos, they find themselves standing alone in it. Remaining calm also allows you to hear things others might miss. When someone is overwhelmed by emotion, they often reveal more about their true feelings, frustrations, and motives. Their words become less filtered, and small details slip out that normally would remain hidden. If you stay composed, you can observe these signals without becoming distracted by your own emotional reactions. This awareness helps you understand the real issue behind the behavior rather than simply reacting to the surface conflict. Another quiet strength of calmness is that it forces the pace of the interaction to slow down. Emotional reactions tend to push conversations into fast, impulsive exchanges. Calm responses break that rhythm. They introduce pauses, thoughtful answers, and measured tone. When the pace slows, the emotional pressure loses some of its force, and the conversation begins to move back toward clarity. Over time, people start to recognize that emotional outbursts do not easily shake you. They realize that provoking you will not produce the reaction they expected. This reputation alone discourages many attempts at manipulation or intimidation because those tactics only work when someone is able to control your emotional state. One of the greatest misunderstandings about power is the belief that you must win every confrontation. Many people feel that walking away from a conflict means they have lost. In reality, constantly trying to win every battle can drain your time, energy, and focus. Truly strategic individuals understand that not every situation deserves their attention. Sometimes the smartest move is to step away from a power game entirely. Manipulative people often thrive on conflict and competition. They enjoy arguments, emotional reactions, and long battles of words because these situations give them attention and control. When someone constantly engages with them, the manipulator receives exactly what they want: a stage where they can continue pushing, provoking, and influencing the other person. But when you refuse to participate in unnecessary battles, the entire dynamic changes. The game they were trying to play suddenly has no opponent. Walking away is not about fear or weakness. It is about recognizing where your energy is best spent. Strategic thinkers ask themselves an important question before engaging in conflict. Will winning this actually improve the situation, or will it simply create more chaos? If the outcome does not truly matter, they understand that investing emotional and mental energy into the fight only benefits the other person. By refusing to engage, they protect their focus for situations that genuinely deserve their attention. Another important aspect of stepping away from unnecessary power struggles is maintaining control over your priorities. When someone constantly pulls you into arguments or manipulation attempts, they are essentially controlling your time and emotional state. You may spend hours thinking about the situation, replaying conversations, and planning responses. Meanwhile, the rest of your responsibilities and goals receive less attention. Choosing not to engage breaks this cycle and returns control of your focus to you. Walking away also sends a strong psychological signal. It shows that you are not desperate to prove yourself in every situation. People who feel secure in their position do not chase every argument or defend themselves against every criticism. They understand that their time and peace of mind are more valuable than temporary victories. This quiet confidence often leaves a stronger impression than any heated argument ever could. Over time, people begin to notice that you do not easily get pulled into unnecessary drama. They realize that attempts to provoke you will not always succeed, and that realization often reduces the number of conflicts that even reach your door.